You know, the new year is always a great opportunity to make a positive change in your life. Maybe developing or getting back to good financial habits is one of those on your list. Cory Sickles, president of Safe Harbor, here to talk about some practical tips to help strengthen your financial future this year and, of course, beyond, right? This is not just one and done, as we've talked about before, Cory.
Exactly right. This is something you can use day in and day out, year after year.
Okay, and the thing about it is, I know people can do this all year. They can take stake of their financials and kind of figure this out. But the new year, is this often kind of that push people need? Do you see that?
It's just like anything else, right? I mean, maybe you're going to work out more. You know, everyone gets gym memberships in January, right? But, you know, what I really would say is that January is a good time to, you know, set what your financial goals are going to be. You know, do you want to save maybe for a trip or for a large purchase? Or maybe you need to save for an emergency fund. But here's the one thing I would probably say is write it down. Don't think about it. You know, because a lot of times if you write stuff down, you're going to go back and you're going to look at it and say, you know, did I actually do what I said I was going to do?
And you say specifically to establish clear goals. So is that something where you write it down and they're attainable? Maybe not a goal and saying, yeah, I'm going to buy a yacht by the end of the year.
Yeah, you do want it to be attainable, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to, you know, for like an emergency fund, you know, if you want to be able to get to where you have $10,000 in case something happens, and that's what you want to be able to do. Or I think a good one might be, you know, I want to save 10% of my earnings into my 401k or something similar like that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Cory, next up, you advise that folks make a budget, the word that we don't always like to talk about, but what should be included in that?
Well, you know, when we start talking about budget, really all you're talking about, you need to know how much money you're bringing in, right? You definitely need to be able to know that. Then you have to, whether you want to go and pull out your bank statement or ever how you're paying for things on debit cards or cash, but you also want to, where's all my money going, right? Mm-hmm. What are my true monthly expenses? And that's going to be able to tell you, are you positive or negative? Maybe should I cut back in certain things? You know, am I able to save still? I mean, that's always a big portion of it. But I think it's good every year to at least to kind of sit back and go, what did I do in 2023?
Right.
Where did all my money go?
Did I go get coffee every day that I shouldn't have?
That's exactly right.
All right, Cory, your next tip, you say to automate savings and investments. So how do you go about doing that? Is there a certain amount that you want to kind of shoot for?
Well, I always think you should shoot between 10 to 15% of whatever your earnings are. And whether you want to put that into a 401k or something like that. But let's just talk maybe about an emergency fund or maybe just building a fund up that you might have access to, right?
Right.
The best part is you need to say, this is how much I'm going to do per month, then automatically just set it up. Well, you know, if you're working with like us, we can come in once a month and grab, you know, 100 or 200 or whatever a dollar amount you're trying to save per month. Then you kind of forget about it. It just kind of happens. Next thing you know, you've reached your financial goal of what you're trying to be able to save.
Absolutely. If you don't see it oftentimes, right? You don't even know it was there. Okay. So number 4, you say evaluate and trim unnecessary expenses. This probably goes back to my, did you go, you know, get coffee? Did you spend something you shouldn't have?
Coffee's probably a big one, too.
I know. I was just thinking about that.
Maybe they could be $5 or $6. I mean, who knows what you're spending there? But, you know, this might be a good time, too, to even look at another one would be all these streaming things.
Right. Your subscriptions.
Oh, your subscriptions.
Yeah.
Are you really using them? You know, so that's there's so many of them that you can end up actually paying for. But kind of go through and look at just pull out your bank or credit card statement. You can kind of look at, see, you know, where's all my money going?
Right.
Am I even using this?
They kind of itemize them for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to kind of go through that to see, are there ways that I can maybe, you know, lower my cost in certain areas?
Cory, this is obviously a big one. Don't put off saving for retirement. Hence, going back to what you're saying, automate that 401k. Make sure that that's there.
That's exactly right. And, you know, we've talked on the show before, you know, the earlier that you start saving, the less you actually got to save, you know, because of compound interest. But I think what everyone's goal should be is in that 10 to 15% of whatever your earnings are is what you should be putting into, whether it's a retirement account or your own particular savings account outside of your 401k.
Something you always advise, and this is kind of how we end on these New Year tips, is education. And you always put that onto your clients, your first meeting. That's
exactly right. I think education's key. It's kind of like, how can you make a financial decision or any decision if you're not knowledgeable on it? You know, the sad part is when you go out and you kind of, well, I read stuff and you go out and a lot of times people spend more time planning a vacation than they actually do of trying to be able to plan their retirement on an annual
Absolutely.
basis, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing I'm saying, you don't have to like spend hours a month to be able to do it, but maybe just pick topics out or read about a 401k or a health savings, or or even if you actually would come in and meet with us, whatever we're trying to do for you, we're going to try to educate you to make sure you understand what we're recommending and why we're recommending it for you as well.
All right, that first meeting always complimentary. He has 2 locations, the phone, the web on there, so you can find out all that information. Cory, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Robin.